Sorry about that. This Vimeo thing always cuts off at 30 minutes. But let's continue. So as I was saying, alright, uh, what makes you an eyewitness is that you see Jesus and then you die for exactly that fact. You see Jesus and then you die for him. It's different from being a general martyr, right? So it doesn't change the fact that he's an eyewitness, right? In fact, what makes his case stronger is that he was anything but a Christian, right? And was very well known for being anything but a Christian. He would go around killing Christians as a Jew, okay? And he became a Christian and died for that fact. Makes his case much stronger. And you could just say he's insane. The thing that would hurt that is that there's no actual evidence supporting that he was ever insane, or any of the other apostles that died for the cause as well.
To the alleged event. That Paul. Well, if he says it happened, it must be true. I mean, sure, it's not 500 eyewitnesses, but rather just one guy claiming that there are 500 witnesses.
Honestly, at the start, when I heard that it was only Paul that said the 500 eyewitnesses, I was like, okay, that sounds a bit stupid too. But the thing that made me accept this fact is that it's not just he said there was 500 eyewitnesses. I could say I have wings growing out of my back and I have a tail, right? It doesn't make it true. But if I say that and then I do something extremely drastic to prove that, right? Being a clinically normal person, right? Like dying for that fact, it does add a lot of substantial. And the thing is, I died for that fact with no other benefit for dying for that fact rather than it being true. Okay? He died for that fact. He died on this fact. He died on the fact that he saw Jesus. Alright? Which is what makes his claim so strong and true. And the thing is, he also invited people to say, you know what, come, I want you to investigate these 500 people. Ask them about their witness. Ask them about their accounts, alright? I invite you to do this. I implore you to do this. Which makes it even true. If I lie, I'm not going to tell you. If I lie that I'm a millionaire, I'm not going to say, let's go check my bank account. Let's go right now. I'll put in my card and we'll check it all right in front of you. No. It doesn't add to the fact. Alright? And especially dying for the fact too. It adds even more to the fact that it's true. Okay? Anyways, let's keep going.
But who needs corroboration when you've got Paul's word? It's not like he had a reason to embellish or anything. I'm sure he was totally objective and unbiased. But hey, maybe I'm being too harsh. After all, if 500...
The thing is, you have to understand, okay? If he did lie, right? Why would Paul say that these 500 people were there, right? And then go die for that lie? People do not die for their lies. People do not die for their lies. People do not die for anything unless there is a valid reason to do it, okay? But the only valid reason to die for something for Paul was that it was real. There was no monetary benefit. There was no benefits at all to dying for Christianity, dying for this fact, rather than it actually being true, right? Christians at the time, from biblical and non-biblical sources, only faced persecution. They did not face a nice treatment of a little bit of wine, a little bit of cheese, a little bit of this, that. No, they didn't get that treatment, all right? You'd be lucky if you didn't get stoned to death in the next city you went to, the next town you went to, all right? So there is no benefit to dying for that rather than it being true, right? So the thing is, his martyrdom significantly backs up the facts of what he says are true, all right? And you could say, oh, he made this up for Christianity, right? Why in the first place would he believe in Christianity? Why in the first place would he give up his position as a rich Pharisee that hunts down Christians for gain? Like you know what I'm saying? Like, it's goofy. Like why would he do this? Why would he give that all up for this fact rather than it only being true? All right? And because he did that, it severely, and the fact that he also invites people to go investigate these people that saw the 500 people, it significantly supports that fact, right? So you need much more. So your account that it was embellished, right, doesn't account for all the evidence, which makes it untrue. Anyways, let's continue.
People saw it. There must be a ton of written accounts from them, right? Right?
Paul wrote to the Corinthians that most of those eyewitnesses were still alive at the time of his writing.
No way. most of those supposed 500 eyewitnesses were still kicking around 20 to 25 years later when Paul wrote about it. That's a miracle in its own right.
How is that a
Seriously,
miracle?
what are the odds that out of 5...
How is that a miracle? Alright. Let's say in 33 AD, I'm a 20-year-old guy, I'm a 25-year-old guy, and I see Jesus resurrected. Wow. Okay? I see Jesus resurrected. Okay? 20 years after that, 25 years after that, I'll be like a 50-year-old guy, 45-year-old guy. Okay? And I'm still alive. Okay? At that time, the life expectancy wasn't that long, right? But it was still possible for you to be 50 years old, right? It wasn't super crazy for there to be a 50-year-old, right? So even if there was people alive at that time, right? Saying that people weren't alive at that time and it being a miracle of itself, right? Someone 20 years after something occurred still being alive is really bogus. Really, really bogus. Anyways, let's continue.
500 people. Not a single one of them could write or knew someone literate who could document this allegedly life-changing event over the course of 2 decades.
The thing is, maybe they did, alright? Maybe they did document this, right? Maybe those 500 people did document something that happened, right? But those got lost to history or were not passed down thoroughly enough to be able to come into our hands today, right? Who knows how many historical documents are out there, not just for supporting Christianity, but other events as well, other things as well, that support historical events that did happen but got lost in history, right? And to say a small group of 500 people, right, that were very, very likely, almost all of them, if not the majority of them, being illiterate and unable to write, which is very, very, very likely the truth, right? And saying of those 500 people, likely if there were any that could even write, being like 10 to 20 of those 500, and saying that their documents didn't get passed through thoroughly enough through over 2,000 years of passing through these documents, and they didn't finally arrive into our hands today, is very, very, very intellectually dishonest in a way, saying like that's more of a leap of faith if anything, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, let's continue.
It's not one account. The only thing we have here is Paul, who wasn't there, simply claiming secondhand that they saw the resurrected Jesus.
The thing is, he's making it seem like such a simple claim. No, it's not a simple claim. He put his blood on it. He died for that fact, right? If I claim something and die for it with no other benefit for dying for it rather than it just being true, right? Then likely, very, very likely what I said is true, okay? And when you undermine the account of someone that did that, like saying, oh, just one person, right? Who was this one person? What did this one person do? If they did something very, very drastic to prove the authenticity of their claims, right? Then there's something to be considered, okay? So throwing away that claim as just one person, right? Is very, very dishonest. All right, let's continue.
This is what we call hearsay.
Hearsay?
It's almost as if, and bear with me here, this claim is less reliable than the countless alien abductions we hear about. But no, that...
Okay, but does someone go ahead and die for that fact? Come on. Like, you see, all of what he's saying is like, all of this like, oh, this happened, he's saying is like not considering the fact that Paul literally died for it, right? He died for what he said happened, right? Anyways, let's continue.
That can't be right. Paul said it, so it must be true. That's the rule here, no? Never mind that he wasn't even there and had every reason to promote this new religion. Just ignore that. You know, I'm starting to think that the creator of this video might be onto something.
Tell me a reason. Why would he have a reason to promote? Like, this is funny, like thinking about it. That's the whole point. He had no reason to promote this religion. If he did promote this religion, he would likely die. So would his family. Alright? And if he did promote this religion, he would get stripped of all his status as being a rich Pharisee. Right? So, back that up. Why did he want to promote this religion, right? Why? Anyways, let's keep going.
Here. Who needs first-hand accounts and contemporary evidence when you've got second-hand stories from biased sources? That's how history works, right? I can't wait.
Secondary events from biased sources, right? If these sources were so biased, why don't we see patterns of bias in the new Gospels? All right, and in the Gospels. If you're claiming that there's a bias in the Gospels, support your claim. Clearly, there is no bias in these Gospels. Literally, the most pertinent event to our faith has no bias in it. The first people to have seen the empty tomb were women, and women's accounts were mush back in the day. All right, and a lot of the historical events that happened in the new Gospels are consistent with historical context of that time from other really reliable historical documents, all right, that are non-biblical. Okay, so to just say that is intellectually dishonest. Anyways, let's
Wait to
continue.
see what other incredible stories they've got in store for us. Bring on
Sorry,
the
to say that they were passed down in a biased fashion is very wrong, because if there was a bias in it, we would see consistent bias throughout the Gospels. But it's not there. It's just documentation of exactly what happened, right? In fact, they include embarrassing elements, okay? If I wanted to make someone believe something, right, I wouldn't include biased elements. So that claim that you say that they are biased doesn't account for all the evidence. Having said that, saying they're biased is intellectually dishonest. Continue.
talking donkeys and the parting of the seas.
The implication is clear. If you doubt the resurrection,
Okay, you say talking donkeys, alright? If we say, okay, if I died, this is basically the resurrection. If I died saying I died for the case, saying I saw a talking donkey, right? And there's no other reason why I would die for that fact rather than it being true. Okay? I saw the talking donkey, all right? And then I die for it, already giving a lot of substantial questioning to rise for why you should believe this actually did happen, all right? And then you find the corpse of a dead donkey with vocal cords that prove that he can actually speak, then you would actually go like, oh damn, maybe it is true, okay? And we do have this. The apostles and Paul died for this cause, right? With no real benefit to it rather than it being the truth. And then you have other things happening that add to the fact proving its truth. Empty tomb. Jesus' body not being found over 2,025 years, right? The Shroud of Turin. The early church forming around the faith and belief that Jesus was resurrected, built by eyewitnesses. All right? When you have all these facts gathering together that are coherent with what actually happened, right? It makes it extremely probable that it is true, right? Anyways, let's continue.
there are a host of people you can go ask who saw him with their own two eyes.
Hold up, let me get this straight. You're telling me that if I doubt the resurrection, I can just ask a bunch of people who saw it with their own eyes? Now, that is incredible. I mean, it's not like those people have been dead for nearly 2,000 years or anything. Are they gonna resurrect for story time or something?
Bro,
but hey,
what
let's
type of-
ignore the glaring
Like, what type of stupid reason is that? All right, I'm not even gonna lie. The guy that made that video who said ask them, that's kind of a stupid argument. Right? There's so much better evidence arguing for it. All right. Anyways, let's continue. And for him to point that out as a reason why the resurrection's evidence is bad is so stupid. At least come up with some good arguments. All right. Anyways, continue.
problem with this argument for a moment. If we could actually interrogate these supposed eyewitnesses,
Yes.
I'm sure their accounts would be rock solid and completely consistent, right?
Yes.
But we can't, because they don't exist. Despite the confidence of Christians, as we're seeing,
Look at the accounts of Jesus' resurrection in the Gospels. All right, they are consistent amongst each other. They're consistent to how he looks, how he sounds, how he appears to them. Those are consistent. So using the documented claims that we have, see if those claims are consistent. All right, and whoopity-doo, they are. Okay.
here, this crucial, miraculous claim is unsupported. When it comes to the resurrection,
Sorry about that. I had to pause the video because I had to go. Well, let's continue watching this video.
an extraordinarily miraculous claim.
Okay, so the next one I want to show you is called highlight.
I'm gonna unpause when this adds. Alright, here we go. Let's continue this.
An extraordinarily miraculous claim. We have extraordinarily poor evidence.
Bro, that's
What we
such cap. We have extraordinarily poor evidence. Seriously? You know how much data we have on Jesus and the resurrection rather than just from biblical sources that are already deemed extremely reliable? Alright? Again, we have Flavius Josephus. Alright? We have archaeological evidence in 2 different prisons of Jesus being crucified but depicted with a donkey head. Here, I'll show you. It's kind of stupid. I mean, when I say it kind of sounds stupid, but here, I'll show you. Here. Archaeological evidence of the resurrection happening. Alright? You have Alexamenos graffito. This was basically carved into a wall during Jesus' time. It was depicting the resurrection, depicting the crucifixion of Jesus. Alright? Then, here, let me get this one. This was a new one. Alright. Site. Prison. Saint. Jesus is God. This is a newer one, actually. Here, right here. This is new. Okay. The Megiddo mosaic. Basically, over here it says Jesus is God. This was found in a Megiddo prison in Israel. Basically, old Jerusalem. So yeah, Israel prison, dated back to the time of Jesus, where it said Jesus is God over here. Archaeological evidence. And you have Flavius Josephus. He was a Jewish. He's a Jewish account of what happened with Jesus. You have Roman accounts being what's it called? His name, Tacitus. Yeah, that's his name, Tacitus. All right, here, let me just go to my sources real quick. All right, yeah, you have Tacitus, 56 to 120 AD. You have Suetonius, 69 to 122 AD. All right, you have the letter of Ignatius, 35 to 107 AD. All right, you have the letters of Clement from Rome, which is 96 AD. You have the Jewish Talmudic sources. All right, you have the Marabar Serapion. All right, you have many sources, okay, that are not biblical supporting the resurrection, including the New Testament itself. All right, which is even really reliable. So don't say we don't have a lot of evidence. We have archaeological evidence, we have historical evidence, and we have biblical evidence. Too much evidence for you to say there's no evidence, all right? So stop making a fool of yourself. We have lots of evidence. All right, let's get back to the video.
have is a handful of contradictory, second-hand accounts written decades after the supposed event by anonymous authors with a clear agenda to promote an early Christian movement. We don't have any contemporary historical records, physical evidence, or neutral eyewitness testimony that would be
no physical evidence. Nice one, buddy. Anyways, he also said we don't have eyewitness accounts. We did, but at the time, alright? If we're not going to include eyewitness accounts, what's that girl's name? Here, let me search her up. I forgot her name. What's it called? Anne Frank. She's an eyewitness with a written account. Why do we not include her account as being a real thing? Alright? Just because something happened much, much later doesn't make it less reliable. Alright? It's an account that happened a long time ago. Here, let me show you. Anne Frank. She journaled her experience during Nazi Germany. Alright? Hiding in an attic. Okay? Or the roof of a house. If we don't use... And this is a valid account of what happened. Alright, we have all these different personal accounts of things happening that are really useful to give us evidence of real events which occurred, right? So to not use something like this would be So to not use something like the accounts of the people that saw the resurrection by name that we have, like the Gospels, it would be intellectually dishonest. All right? So let's keep going. There we go. And oh, we don't have any eyewitnesses now. Of course we don't. It was 2,000 years ago. Like, come on. Stay on the same page. All right? Anyways. Oh, there we go. Here, let me see. I think I stopped sharing my screen. Give me one sec. There we go. Let's get this set up again. There we go.
Be expected for such a monumental occurrence. Not a single record.
Not a single record. Bro, not a lot of people could write back then. Alright? Yet we still have a lot of records of them. We have the Gospels. We have historical documents from the time of Jesus. Alright? We have lots of historical records, including archaeological evidence as well. Right? So to say that is very, very intellectually dishonest. Right? Like, if you're gonna lie about, like, evidence and stuff, right, at least be good at it. You know what I'm saying? But, anyways, let's keep going.
The earliest gospel, Mark, doesn't even include any post-resurrection appearances by Jesus. None. Let that sink in. And the other gospels that do mention appearances present conflicting details about who saw Jesus, where and when. They read precise.
Excuse me? Conflicting details? Bro, this guy's not serious. Alright. They do not have conflicting details. They have details that add upon each other. Alright? If there was a girl called Whitney and she got murdered, alright? And then me and someone named John saw the murder happen and they brought a set, alright? I saw that Whitney had red pants, alright? So I said she had red pants, alright? And then John says she also had a white shirt. Are those conflicting facts? Do those contradict each other? No. They add on to each other. They add missing pieces that weren't originally there. Right? That weren't mentioned by the other person. They don't conflict each other, they just add on to each other. So to say that they conflict each other is intellectually dishonest. Anyways, let's continue.
Like legendary embellishments rather than sober historical reporting.
If it wasn't sober historical reporting, why would they include events like women being the first people to uncover the tomb? Right? They include very detailed events, right? And don't mix it up because they don't show a bias when it comes to one of our most crucial events to our faith, being the actual resurrection, finding the empty tomb, right? If it was just a made-up fairy tale, it would probably like have more magical elements to it, that type of thing, and not be based on real historical accounts and eyewitness testimonies, and based off of more of a whimsical nature of an actual miracle happening. But it's not. It's documented like how any important historical event is documented before the invention of cameras and other things. We have eyewitness accounts, alright, that are consistent and historically consistent with other non-biblical accounts as well. Alright? Let's keep going. And it's not legendary, alright? Do you know how long it takes for legends to develop? Alright? The early church formed soon after the resurrection. It wouldn't be long enough for a legend to form before the early church could form. The early church forming directly destroys the argument that it was fabricated as a legend, because it takes much longer for legends to form before the early church ever could. Alright? So let's keep going. So it's like me saying that, oh, it was a legend built over time, but there's this place that had all the facts that we know about this legend that built 50 years later, right? But we know it from early church fathers that built the early church, right? They knew it from the beginning, right? So if they knew all this stuff and it was a legend that added on facts over time, right? That wouldn't make sense because it wouldn't account for how the early church knows what they know, how the early church even exists, right? Okay, let's keep going.
What's more, outside of the Bible, the evidence is even more lacking. There are no reliable extra-biblical references to a resurrected Jesus at all, period. The earlier
There was people getting crucified and persecuted for their beliefs. All right? And do you want your what's it called? Your non-biblical sources? Your non-biblical source is that no other source exists that can account for what happened to the body. They all have zero documentation of what happened to the body. All right? They have zero evidence if they took the body, if the disciples took the body, if the Romans took the body, because no one took the body. All right? Because they don't have accounts of that happening. All right? Because the only real account was that he got resurrected. Okay? If the Romans stole the body, or if the Jews stole the body, they would have said something. And if it was the disciples, then why would they go die for their lies? There's absolutely no benefit for it. Oh, they were clinically insane. So these people that never had insanity ever in their lives before suddenly became insane when the resurrection happened. That's more of a leap of faith than anything. All right? Let's keep going.
earliest non-Christian source that even mentions Jesus is a brief passage in the writings of Josephus, a Jewish historian who wrote about 93 to 94 CE. However, there is no mention of the...
That is wrong. It wasn't 93 to 94 CE. It was... 1 second. 37 to 100 CE. Check your sources. Alright, let's keep going.
resurrection, except for in later translations of his work, which scholars, including Christian scholars, agree that it was likely an addition by Christian scribes. Look, if Jesus really had resurrected and had appeared to hundreds of...
evidence that it was added by later Christian scribes? I don't think it would even be considered historically. I don't think the Flavius Josephus take on what happened during those times would even be counted, if not considered, if it was deemed a unreliable source, because that would make it unreliable if it was tampered with, right? But it's not. That's why we still use it to this day, all right? Don't just make empty statements without providing evidence, all right? Let's keep going.
of witnesses, as Paul claims, we would expect, would we not, to find at least some mention of this extraordinary event in the writings of contemporary historians.
You do have writings of this happening, right? Here, let me find it for you. 1 sec. Okay. You have Jewish Talmudic references saying that Jesus was able to actually do miracles, right? These are Jewish sources. So not only are they neutral, but they're actually against Christianity, which makes them even more reliable, all right? So they said, one of the most well-known passages in the Talmud that refers to Jesus and accuses him of using magic is in the Sanhedrin 43a, all right? On the eve of the Passover, Jesus, Yeshua, was hanged for he practiced sorcery and enticed Israel to apostasy, all right? So they didn't deny the fact that he did miracles. It's just they didn't say it was miracles. They claimed it to be sorcery. So he still did the impossible, all right? You have these accounts of him doing the impossible, okay? You also have the Talmud, the Shabbat 104b, right? It's taught on the eve of the Passover, Yeshua was hanged for he practiced magic and led Israel astray, okay? Another account of there being magic or some sort of supernatural phenomenon occurring which is responsible for these miracles occurring, but it's not denying those miracles, all right? You have the Toledot Yeshu, all right, circa, which is 5th century to 10th century AD. The Toledot Yeshu is a medieval Jewish text that presents an alternative and highly critical narrative of the life of Jesus. It is not a historical account in the traditional sense, but rather a polemic work created by Jewish authors to counter Christian claims, all right? So they're purposely making this so this was a direct attack towards Christianity to shut it down, right? In the Toledot Yeshu, Jesus is depicted as a false Messiah who uses magic to perform miracles. See what's the consistent narrative amongst all these sources? They're not denying miracles. They're just trying to protest it to something else. It's black magic. It's sorcery. All right? But they're not denying the miracles. Even the people against Christ at the time, they're not denying the miracles. That should really speak volume. All right? And then you have Roman sources. While Roman historians did not typically claim that Jesus used magic or sorcery, from early Roman critics of Christianity, such as Celsus, were hostile towards Jesus and the Christian movement, accusing Christians of engaging in magic and deception. All right? Celsus in particular made several accusations about the miracle of Jesus. You have Celsus in 2nd century AD. He was a Roman philosopher and critic of Christianity. Wrote a work called